What's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Real Spit from a Gangsta Gone Legit. Before we get started, I'm going to need you to hit that like and smash that subscribe button. Today, we have, as a guest on Real Spit from a Gangsta Gone Legit, my brother, Mr. Randy Muhammad, student minister. What's up, brother?
Peace, black
Peace,
man.
black man.
How
Peace.
are you?
I'm good, man. I'm so honored, man, that you'd be a part of this platform, man.
Yes,
I
sir.
thank you for taking the time out and doing this interview.
Well, it's a pleasure and an honor for me to be here with you. You know, brother, I've been observing your motion, you know, and I'm a part of your movement, man. You know what I'm saying? And I love that energy. You know, Gangsta Gone Legit is not a brand, it's a lifestyle, you know, and so I salute you. So I'm honored to be able to be on your platform.
Thank you, brother. We're honored to have you. So we're going to jump right into it, and we're going to take them back to when you were younger. Because right now, to date, you're the student minister in the Nation of Islam, correct?
Yes, sir. Student minister of Muhammad Mosque, number 11.
Okay, number 11. And that would be the one in Grove Hall, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. So let's take them back to when you first came off the porch. Like,
Man,
let's go back.
Way back. That's going way back. So, you know, I'll going back for me, you know, I grew up, you know, as a product of our environment, you know, the so-called gangster lifestyle was always around me. You know what I mean? I was the youngest male in a family of 8. You know, I have 5 older brothers, 2 older sisters. You know, just coming up the way we come up. I remember when I was in kindergarten, you know, I came home one day and the feds were in the house. And, you know, if you ever been raided or know anyone who has been raided, you know, I mean, the furniture's upside down, beds, mattress upside down, drawers are out, everything is flipped out as they're looking for the package, you know, and that was traumatizing, but that was kindergarten. But that was just the environment, you know what I'm saying, that I witnessed, and you know, want to kind of qualify that, because at that young age, it's not like I necessarily knew what my father was into, and it wasn't really crazy. As far as I'm concerned, we was a perfect, you know, intact family, you know, father, mother, house, you know what I mean. But that one experience, you know, was seared in my brain. But I just say that just to say, you know, what was around me.
Yeah,
you know
from
what
a young age.
From a young age. And so, you know, we went through some hardship. You know, there was some times where we ended up, you know, leaving from the house that was our home, you know, and having to stay in the projects, Mission Hill projects. We lived there with my sister for a few years, you know, while my father, you know, had to go and do a bid, you know what I mean? And so, you know, I remember from a young age going to prison, you know, to visit my father, you know, one of my uncles from back then, you know, from when I was shorty, he had caught a body and I was doing a life bid, you know, so, you know, my youth was visiting prisons, you know, all the upstate prisons, as he made his way from Walpole to Norfolk to Concord to Gardner. You know, it's crazy because I ended up, you know, later on ministering in these prisons. But, you know, this just wasn't strange to me.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? And so, you know, at a certain point, you know, when, you know, my father came back home and we kind of put the family a little bit back together, but then it broke up again and he left, you know, at a very young age. I was probably maybe 8, you know, and so you're looking at a Puerto Rican woman, my mother, you know, who didn't speak that well English. You know, she does now,
right.
And she was able to master it, but it is her second language. And you know, she was a housewife. You know, she had 8 children. You know, and then all of a sudden, she's by herself.
Right.
You know, and so, you know, that, you know, put things in motion for me and my brothers as far as having to fend for ourselves. You know, me being the youngest, you know, just seeing what my brothers were going through. You know, they went to the streets hard. You know what I'm saying? And we were in survival mode, man. And that's what kind of triggered the whole gangster. You know, I guess we call it that now. But for us, we were just surviving in the hood. Whether we had to steal, whether we had to sell drugs, you know what I'm saying? It was like, you know, it was us against the world, you know, and we knew that we didn't have anything, and we were just trying to get. That's that gangster mentality, right? It's us against the world. We have nothing. We poor, you know what I'm saying? And we're gonna make it do what it do, you know. So that was. So when you talk about coming off the porch, you know, like. You know, that was my childhood. You know, and so at an early age, I'm hanging out with my older brothers. You know, so I would say, you know, from maybe as early as 12 on, you know, I'm out in the streets, hanging with them. You know, staying out late, after hours. You know what I'm saying? Just doing what we do in the streets, man. So it started very young for me. You know, and I remember, you know, a lot of my peers that I would be in school with. Like, I was that dude that was like around my peers, like I was light years ahead. Like they still playing with toy cars and marbles while I'm out, you know what I'm saying, getting high and being, you know, being out in the streets, you know. And so yeah, it was just how I came up.
At what age did you earn the nickname Trigga?
Well, the moniker Trigga, you know, really goes back before gangsters, before we officially started gangbanging. You know, and you remember we was into the hip hop, the whole hip hop era, and so we was breakdancing. It was crews back then. There were crews before there was gangs.
Right.
So in actuality, Trigga started from the crew when I was part of the breakdancing crew. You know what I'm saying? And it was just really, you know, it was the moniker of being fast. You know what I'm saying? Being that dude. You know, and but as time went on, and we evolved from breakdancing and battling with dance, which by the way, man, you know that I gotta say, man, that era was dope. You know what I'm saying? Absolutely. Like that era was dope, and it'll be great if we can get back to that.
I agree.
You know, so peace to the Zulu Nation and all the brothers, man, who really, you know, because gangbanging in New York was going on back then,
right,
in the 70s.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? 60s and 70s. There was gangbanging back then in New York, and it was, you know, the Zulu Nation and others that really introduced the culture of hip hop to kind of mitigate that. And so they went from shooting and stabbing and having, you know, remember the Warriors? Yeah. Having them brawls and whatnot. They went from that to battling. You know what I'm saying? Breakdance battles, MCing, you know, and for a while, you know, that culture really permeated. And so that was our reality as well. You know, that prevented a lot of senseless murders and beefs. You know what I'm saying? Because instead of fighting and killing, we're gonna see who's the illest rapper. We're gonna see who's the best breakdancer, who got the illest windmills. You know, so that was going on. But again, you know, the tide turned. And so when the gangster era with crack came in, and it became something else with the introduction of the CIA's introduction of crack cocaine into black communities, and we have to say that.
That's
right.
That's right.
Because the so-called gangster culture, you know, we didn't just. This wasn't something that we just wanted to do, right? We were set up for self-destruction. We were programmed, and that's something that I really want to share on this episode, you know. But the CIA introduced crack cocaine into the black community, and they also introduced, you know, high caliber weapons,
right?
AK-47s. You know what I'm saying? Uzis, you know, high caliber weapons that we never had access to, and they did that intentionally in the 80s, in the mid 80s, early 80s, mid 80s, with the whole crack epidemic. So then this whole gangster craze came in, you know, and so you know, we squatted up. We squatted up. Every hood squatted up.
Right.
I remember vividly, you know, watching when they was talking about the Bloods and the Crips in LA and how they was rolling like 1,000 deep, and you know how many members were, and they talked about how, you know, they would go and like take over certain neighborhoods, and you got it and jump you in.
Right.
I remember this kind of talk. My mentality was, ain't gonna happen here. I'll be damned if some out of towners is gonna come into our hood and try to make us, you know what I'm saying, you know, get down with them or whatnot. So really for me, gangbanging was a defense mechanism. Like, we're gonna protect our hood. Ain't nobody gonna come from outside our hood and dictate what's gonna happen in our hood. And so, you know, the Trigga moniker, it came to be something else then.
Right.
Now it's something else. Right. You know, and it was, you know, I was one of the first ones from the crew to have a burner. You know what I mean? Gotcha. And so, you know, we just took that and ran with it.
Okay. And so, take me to, so we're talking, what, 16, 17 years old at this time? Are you in
yeah, that was probably 14, 15.
Oh, 14, 15, okay. So where we at? We at 80 what?
We in about maybe 86, 87.
Okay.
You know, high school.
So you must be a couple years older than me then, mister.
Maybe.
All right then. All right, so, well, it's clear that you went from Trigga to where you are today as Brother Randy Muhammad, which is the student minister of the Nation of Islam.
Yes, sir.
At Mosque number 11 in Grove Hall, correct?
Yes, sir.
That's a excuse me. That's a big transition. How was that able, and at what time in your life did you say, or what happened that caused that change? Let's take that.
I like that question because, you know, a lot of times, you know, and let me just say that I've been doing prison ministry, serving in the prison ministry for, you know, about 27 years now. You know, and so it's been a while. And doing prison ministry, I've witnessed a lot of transformation. I've witnessed a lot of gangsters go legit. You know what I'm saying? Brothers that I was blessed to meet, you know, behind the wall, you know, who had, you know, committed heinous crimes out there, you know, killers, you know, and others, you know, brothers that are serving natural life bids, you know, that I had the pleasure of meeting,
Right.
because, you know, you see the other side,
Right.
you know, and a lot of times, you know, the American media likes to criminalize us. You know, you think about Hillary Clinton and Joe Biden referring to young black, us, me, you. They refer to us as super predators. They were ready to write us off. You know what I mean? And they instituted policies to mass incarcerate us, you know, indiscriminately. So they was looking at us as being incorrigible. They was looking at us as being beyond reform, right? Savage. They was looking at us. They wrote us off. And unfortunately, you know, a lot of our people are written off, right, because we were engaged in behavior that wasn't, you know, the best behavior, but hell, it's what we learned in the American milieu. But what I got a chance to see, so, you know, you see a crime, a heinous crime, you know, shooting, and the last image you see is the person on the news.
Right.
And your image is this dude is a beast. How could he do that? You know, he's a horrible person. I had the fortunate, you know, opportunity to meet these brothers and know that there's another side. Right. You understand what I'm saying? And so a lot of brothers, man, you know, once they were introduced to knowledge of self, they were able to turn around, and we seen the better side of them come out. Great individuals. So I want to spin back because I didn't answer your question. I'm taking the long route.
That's all right. Take your time.
A lot of people are used to the transformation story. Brother went to jail and accepted Islam, and now you're Muslim.
Right.
Tupac did the song. Oh, you a Muslim now? You know what I'm saying? I ain't mad at you, right? Mm-hmm. That song, I Ain't Mad at You by Tupac. He's talking about his homie that he grew up with that was thug like him. Right. Went to jail and came home Muslim. Right. You know, and so that's the story a lot of people know. For me, fortunately, you know, I didn't have to go to jail. You know what I mean? So I didn't have to have that tragic event in my life for me to have the realization that what we were doing was not right. Mm. And I, you know, many are called, but few are chosen. I think that those of us that come into this life, man, is not us that chose, but we were chose for this mission. I feel like that God, Almighty God, Allah, chose me. You know what I'm saying? And when Allah chooses you, right, there's circumstances that happen in your life maybe from day one sometimes. And when God really, let's look at the story of Jesus in the scriptures. He was chosen in the womb of his grandmother. When you look in the Holy Quran, the family of Amran, the 3rd chapter of the Holy Quran, it talks about Mary's parents, and they're dedicating what was in their womb. So look how far back God made a choice, and so he had arranged the events of his mother Mary even before he was born, in preparation to produce this great magnificent man that we see, that everyone looks to and is the standard, the Messiah, Jesus, right? So I use as an example, just to show how when God chooses individuals, right, he prepares them for the mission. And in that preparation, you know, there are things and circumstances that happen in your life that prepare you so that when you hear the word, it has an automatic reaction. I feel, and I'm not saying that to try to make something up more of myself. I'm just a brother. I'm just a servant. You know, I'm a servant of the Jesus. I'm a servant of the Jesus. I'm a servant of the man of God I'm seeing today. You know, I'm not saying that I'm the one, but I believe that I was born to help the one. Mm. And so the circumstances of my life, particularly as I look back at it, being the youngest in a family of 8, being exposed to the worst. You understand what I'm saying? At a young age, seeing, you know, my father go to jail, my uncle go to jail, my brothers go to jail, my you know, those in my family falling victim to addiction and different things, like being around that, right? There was always a yearning for me to be better, to do better. Mm. I went to the streets because that was what I thought was better. That was the only thing. That was this is the way out. Mm-hmm. But I remember feeling as a young man choked up, like, man, is this it? Feeling the weight of the world on me as a young man, being harassed by the police. You understand what I'm saying? Like, it was crazy back then. Right. You know, they passed a law, I guess, here in Boston, that 2 or 3 brothers together was classified as a gang. Absolutely. So I can't tell you how many times I was pulled over, you know what I'm saying, thrown against the car, harassed, talked down to, you know, and I was young. I was a teenager, young dude. Right. You know, but feeling the weight of the world, losing homies, getting, you know, being involved in shootouts, and just, I remember feeling the weight of the world as a young man, and like, damn, like, is this it? So when I heard the minister, you know.
Well, let me stop you right there. When you heard the minister, how did you hear the minister? What brought you to hearing the minister? Like, how did that come about?
Man, it was crazy, man, because again, I grew up product of the hip hop generation. You know what I mean? So I was breakdancing, when that was in, we did graffiti, you know what I'm saying? And then I became a rapper. I was an MC. Man, my brother raps, you know, I rap, and we was deep into the culture, and so I was always deep into the lyrics.
Okay.
And so really, I got turned on to the minister through listening to Public Enemy.
Okay.
You know, so, you know, you remember Chuck, he had that complicated rhyme flow. You had to really listen to him, and I've always been that way. Some people listen to music and they just ride off the beat.
Right.
For me, I was always attracted and drawn to the lyrics.
Right.
You know, the clever use of words.
Right. Same with me.
You know what I'm saying? And then so then you have those that are witty that can put words together.
Right.
But what really did it was when someone was witty and could put words together and is saying something, dropping some knowledge. So Chuck was that dude, and so we deciphering his lyrics. And me and my brother, you know, we like, man, there's something different about these cats, man. You know, PE was just different. They came out, they had the S1Ws, and I was always attracted to that militancy anyways. You know what I mean? So they was militant. He had this rhyme flow that was, you had to kind of decipher what he's saying. One thing that we kept hearing, he kept talking about Farrakhan. He name dropped. I'm a follower of Farrakhan. Don't tell me that you want to. So, you know, Farrakhan's a prophet, and I think you ought to listen to. So we like, man, who is he talking about? Who's this dude, Farrakhan? Right. You know, and so it was just a curiosity. I didn't know he was a minister. I didn't know he was a Muslim. I didn't even know what Muslim was. Right. You know, and so.
Now that you mentioned that, I didn't even think when he said that, I'm a follower of Farrakhan. I didn't know who he was either. Now you
no,
say that, right?
I didn't know who he was. Who's Farrakhan? Right. But being an MC and deciphering the lyrics and trying to see what he was trying to say, it drew the curiosity. Well, what is he talking about? What does that mean? You know? And so a friend of my brother's, you know, a friend of ours, his family had a tape of the minister. You know, they used to attend one of the study groups here in Boston. And so, you know, him and my brother were talking. I guess they mentioned, he's like, I got a tape. So he gave my brother the tape. Mm-hmm. I remember my brother came home and he said, yeah, listen, I got a tape of Farrakhan. Put it in. Again, I didn't know he was a minister. I didn't know what to expect. We put it in. And we listening. And it was like, for me, you know, it was like love at first sight, if you will. Mm-hmm. Meaning that, and it was just audio. Right. But what he was saying was touching my soul. Mm. You know, and I wasn't the type of dude that used to go to church. I didn't like church. I didn't like religion like that. You know what I'm saying? I didn't like. That never moved me. Mm-hmm. You know, I just, for me, religion felt fake. You know, when I was real young, when my mother was controlling me, she made us go to church and get our first communion in the Catholic Church. But that, as soon as we passed that, that was the last time. And I wasn't that type of dude that really was looking for religion, was like the church and anything like that. But when I heard Minister Farrakhan speak, I was drawn. And we listened to the tape, and then the tape finished, turned it around, listened to the other side, not even thinking. We sat there and listened to a lecture. And then when the other side finished, I was mad because, you know the minister, his lectures are at least 2.5 hours, especially back then. He used to teach for like 3, sometimes 4 hours. Mm-hmm. And so the minimum was maybe 2.5 hours. So we listened to that whole tape, turned it around, and it still wasn't over. I was mad because I wanted to get the rest of the message.
You wanted to hear more.
I wanted to hear more. So that started me just listening to the minister. Okay. You know, and so I started trying to find more. I found out he was on the radio on WILD every Sunday morning. I seen a flyer somewhere. You know, so it's like, you ever buy a new car, right? And let's say you just bought a Benz, or you're thinking about buying a Benz, you're about to buy a Benz, and then all of a sudden you start seeing Benzes everywhere. Yeah. Like once you have the car, right, because it's on your mind, you start recognizing everywhere. Right. It was there all along. Right. But now you start to see it. But now you see it more. I got you. So when I started to listen to the minister, and then I wanted to hear more, then I was able to see, oh, there's a flyer, or he's on the radio. You know, or there's a brother with a paper. Oh, you with Farrakhan? Let me get that paper. You know, so that's what drew me in. And I would be out with the crew. We would be deep. You know, there'd be times when we would be, you know what I'm saying? We back in those days, you know, when we would squad up, you know, we would like to flex and go out, you know, 20, 30 deep, you know what I'm saying? Just being on the bus, the whole crew, you know, and I remember a brother came on the bus with a paper, and I was like, oh, you know, it's like I flipped, you know what I'm saying? Like I went from thugging gangster mode to like, oh, yo, let me get that. I was like, oh, where you go? You know what I'm saying? So, but that's how I started. So, but I was still hanging out with the fellas. I'm still doing my thing, but listening to the minister. And what happened, bro, is that the more I listened to the minister, the less desire I had to do what we were doing. My consciousness, you know what I'm saying, was awoken. You know, that self-accusing spirit, you know, that was condemning what I was doing, because I'm listening to this brother, you know, and I'm studying, listening to what he's saying. It's making sense. You know, he's for our people. He's uplifting us. He's telling us we the original man. You know what I'm saying? We are the righteous. You know, the way what he talked about, you know, was just so powerful, because he kind of cleans us up. See, the whole world is looking at us as worthless, as thugs. Like I said, you know, it was referring to us as super predators. But the minister, when you listen to the minister, you understand who the real thug is. That white folks have been the real gangsters. They're the original gangsters. You know what I'm saying? And truth be told, right? Those of us, of our people, that's trying to, that wants to claim being gangster and really being gangster, we following white folks. We was watching all the Godfather movies, Scarface, right? And we emulating them. Even if you look at, you know, there was a time in hip hop when hip hop pivoted, right? Because the powers that be wanted to promote that gangster image. But if you think about a lot of the gangsters, they started to take on the monikers of these Italian gangsters.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So Rockefeller. You understand what I'm saying? John Gotti, Irv Gotti. Right here in Boston, we had a brother, Smoke Bolger. You know, the gangster was Whitey Bulger. Right? So now we looking at these white gangsters that we kind of looking at and we kind of emulate, but they're the real gangster. And I'm not just talking about the Whitey Bulgers or John Gottis or anything like that. I'm talking about how the white man came to America and gangstered up on the Native Americans, strong-armed them for their land. How the white man went into Africa and kidnapped us, right? And brought us over here and pimped us out and enslaved us. Everything that the white man has done is gangster. He steal countries. He steal resources. He's over in the Middle East right now stealing oil. There's white folks in Africa right now that control the gold mine in Africa. They control now that's gangster. You understand what I'm saying? So listening to the minister and showing and what he was saying to me, what he was saying to us is, you know, no, you're not gang, you're the righteous, right? The white man made you that. You're not a thug by nature. You a God by nature. You a thug by circumstances. You a gangster by circumstances. That resonated with me. Then the flip side of it was this. How we over here warring over raggedy projects? You know what I'm saying? I was part of, you know, the Orchard Park Trailblazers, right? One of the founding members of that, right? So we repping for our hood. But think about it. A raggedy, roach-infested, rat-infested, piss on the hallways, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Raggedy, dilapidated property that we don't own. But we ready to put our brother in the ground for that. We ready to die for a project that we don't own or control, while the white man is in Africa sticking up our people for gold and diamonds and oils every day, and we gonna give our life for this? That's what affected me. I said, nah, hell, we going out like suckers. We going out like suckers over here because we banging with each other for nothing, while the white man is gangstering on us and living in heaven, living in luxury off of our property, off of our labor. So that's what made me, I can't keep banging. This don't even make sense.
Right.
How we banging for that don't make no sense to me. We playing ourselves. So, I don't know how I got way over here, beloved, but listening to the minister started to me thinking along those lines, and I just grew beyond the gangster, so-called gangster mentality, and I started to get knowledge of self. So now, as I start getting knowledge of self, and just the way I am, man. When I do something, I'm all in. I'm locked in.
Right.
So just how I went hard in the streets when I came into the nation, I was all in. I was 100%. You understand what I'm saying? So 100% in studying, in learning, and trying to be myself.
Now there's a lot of rules and regulations when you become a minister, of course, but just a member of the nation. How is you able to transform and change your life from, I don't know if you was eating pork when you were younger, which I'm sure most of us were, right?
Absolutely.
And the cursing, all of the different things that we do. How is that discipline? How was you able to discipline yourself to transform and become a upstanding member in the nation to the point where you actually ended up getting to become a student minister? How did you do that? Like, that's not an
It's a process. Yeah, it's a process, and I say to brothers, man, that a lot of times, you invite, you give someone the teachings and invite them to the mosque, and that's what they're looking at. Man, I can't go over there. I can't stop eating pork. I can't stop smoking. I'm not ready. And a lot of brothers tell me, I ain't ready yet. I like what y'all doing. I respect y'all. I'm just not ready yet. And when they say they're not ready, that means they still smoking. They still want to get high. They still maybe drinking. They still womanizing or whatever. They're not ready to lock in. And, so to answer to your question, brother, it's a process. And I always tell brothers, man, you just got to get in the process, because as you know better, you do better.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? You don't wait until you're cleaned up to come to the mosque.
Right.
You know what I mean? If you can clean yourself by yourself, you don't need the mosque. You understand? We're told and taught that the mosque is like a washing machine, right? You don't put clean clothes in a washing machine.
Right.
You put dirty clothes in a washing machine.
Like that. That's
the
deep.
process.
Hold on, I need you to say that again. They got to understand that. Say that one more time, brother.
Yeah, when you come to the mosque, you come to the nation, right? The mosque or the Nation of Islam is like a washing machine. And you do not put clean clothes in a washing machine. Because you put the dirty clothes in the washing machine, the process is going to clean them out. Right. So don't think that you got to come to the nation all the way clean. Just come.
Just come.
Fall in. Right. But in being in the nation, in the ranks, right, the process is going to clean you up. And so I say, brother, that as you know better,
you do better.
You do better. And I want to double down on that, because something in particular, like, I'm Puerto Rican. You know what I mean? My both 100%. My mother, my father, we Puerto Rican. I'm a black man. Let me just say that, right? We understand that we the original people. That may be a whole other question. We can go down that road if you would like to.
No, absolutely. Actually, take this moment to teach our viewers who are going to be watching this who you are, because what you just said is very important, because there's a lot of people, like myself, I'm Cape Verdean, but there's people who are Cape Verdean and Puerto Rican, and they don't realize that we're all black.
That's right.
See, I have knowledge of myself as well, so I know that,
That's right.
that we are original people. But no, break that down.
Well, that was one of the attracting things that really solidified me to love the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. Because the first tape I told you I listened to was Power at Last and Forever, I think it was called. The minister delivered this message in New York in Madison Square Garden, 1985, right? Now, that was the tape. But now, as I started to try to really learn more from the minister, I eventually saw, shortly after I saw it on the cable, they had the same message, but it was a video.
Mm-hmm.
And from the beginning. And one of the things that I saw that really sparked me, because obviously you see me, I'm dark, dark complexion. Mm-hmm. So, and that's another thing, a misnomer, because a lot of times when people think of Puerto Ricans or so-called Latinos, they think that there's just one, they think it's the light skin, straight hair, you know what I'm saying? And I always knew from a child, that as Puerto Ricans, that, there's a mixture of the African, the Native American, Taino blood, and the blood of the European who enslaved us, that they raped our women. and so we have this mixture. So I always knew that, and from my father's side of the family, you know, that's the darker side. You know what I'm saying? We know that there's an African bloodline. So when I learned that as a child in school, maybe the second grade, you know, my bilingual teacher taught us about that history, and so I always knew that there was African blood in me. And again, being dark, and my father's side of the family is a lot darker. My mother's side, she's Puerto Rican, a little bit lighter. You know what I mean? More akin to the traditional Native American look. You know what I mean? That's my mother's side. So I always had that affinity. Growing up in hip hop, growing up in the hood, you know, I was hung out with the brothers. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't see us as any different. Mm-hmm. You know, a lot of us as Puerto Rican, we grew up right in the culture. So when I seen the minister on that tape, it was crazy because he had, you know, the lineup before he spoke. And one of the lineups, he had Bob Law, right, who was representing, you know, who he was representing. But he was a black man, black nationalist. So he had the black nationalist, but he also had the Native Americans up there in full regalia. Feathers, you know what I'm saying? So he had he had a Puerto Rican brother. And so he was representing the unity of the black and the brown, right? Mm-hmm. And man, that for me, that watered my soul to see that, and it really, you know, drew me closer. So we are taught in the nation that we are one people, right? You know what I'm saying? So Puerto Rican is a nationality. That's an island. That's the nation, right? Mm-hmm. And when we talk about Puerto Rico, Puerto Ricans, is really kind of even a misnomer, because Puerto Rico is a territory of the United States. So it's not even an independent nation. But when we talk about being Puerto Rican, it's really just saying where you was born from, right, what island or what nation, you know. So yeah, we that. But what the Nation of Islam has taught me and teaches us, that the black man is the original man, right? So, you know, we all come from the same root, you know, of the black man. The black man is the father of civilization. So, you know, whether we are from Puerto Rico or the Dominican Republic, or, you know, so-called America, so-called American Negro, you know what I mean? What the nation does, it unites all members of the original people under one banner. You understand what I'm saying? So it obliterates, you know, this nationalism, because we all come under the banner of being as black people. Just because I'm from Puerto Rico, I'm still a black man, right, and I can respect the black man from America. I have affinity. You know what I'm saying? I can relate with the black man from Cape Verde. You understand what I'm saying? With the black man from Central America, from South America, and the nation brings us all together and shows us, right, that we are actually the majority. The white man got us thinking that we are minority, and we are less than. But the reality is that all over the planet Earth, we outnumber white folks 11-1. We the majority, but they keep us divided. Right. And so, you know, no, as a Puerto Rican, you know, I love and honored and proud of being a Puerto Rican. I love my island and my people, you know, but I also identify as a black man. And so the reason what made me say that is that, you know, like most black folks, even, we were reared on a hog. As Puerto Ricans, we was reared on a hog. Like every celebration, like Christmas and New Year's and Thanksgiving, like pernil, you know what I'm saying? Like we had these dishes, like it was hog. So I was eating that, you know, my whole life and liked it. Right. You know what I mean? I ain't gonna front. I hate it.
Hey, look, pork chops used to be my favorite dish, so I know.
Come on now. So your question was, how did I change? Right. As I knew better, I did better. So what made me stop eating pork? No one really forced me. Right. I read this book. There was this little pink book. It's called How Not to Eat the Pig. Mm. And when I read that book, it teaches you about the Trigga worm. Exactly. Which are these microscopic worms that are in the microscope. You can't see them with the physical eye. Absolutely. But it's in the meat of the pig. Right. And when you eat it, right, the eggs attach themselves to your muscles. Mm-hmm. And then, you know, the heat incubates them, and now you have worms that are in you, and these worms make their way all through your body, So that right there, and just learning about the pig and how it doesn't have a digestive system and how it eats everything. And just think about it. We call it a pig.
When I was locked up, brother, we did this brother from the nation told me how to take a piece of pork and put it in a baggie on a radiator, which will act as if it's in your system, incubated, right? And when you put it on that radiator, you would see the worms come out. Well, that was my first time seeing something like that happen, because I did it. And it was my last time I've ever eaten pork. That was like 18 years old.
As you know better,
you do better.
You do better.
Absolutely.
So that knowledge, the knowledge of how filthy the pig is, and why we should, and that's what I love about Islam too, man. Let me take this time to say that everything that we're taught, you know, as far as people look at the restrictions, what we can't do, but everything is practical. You know, Islam is a sacred science. There's a science behind everything. It's not just don't do that because God said don't do it. Just hear me. There's a reason why God is telling you not to do it. You know, there's a reason why. So learning the harmful effects of eating the pig is what gave me the strength to not eat the pig. You know what I mean? And so being around my brothers, I remember vividly when I had to curtail my language. I didn't even realize how much I said the N-word. But after coming from the mosque, and then I'm having a conversation and I'm saying that now I'm conscious that I'm saying this word that I shouldn't be saying, that's offensive, that's, you know, degrading, you know what I mean? And so I had to like catch myself. But it was the knowledge that made me even aware that I was using a self-destructive language, and I stopped changing it. You understand what I'm saying? So the same with everything else, you know. And so we know that the real temple of God is not the mosque. The real temple of God is not the church. The real temple of God is not in Mecca at the Kaaba. Is not in St. Basilica in Rome. You know what I'm saying? It's not the Vatican. The real temple of God is this human body. This is the real temple of God. God lives in us. So why would we want to defile the temple of God? You understand?
That's right.
And so that's what, you know, made me not want to not only not eat pork, but not take on intoxicants. Stop drinking, stop smoking. You know what I mean? Learn how to eat the best foods and really take care of the temple of God. You know, and so, you know, that's and it's a process, bro. And so, you know, and it don't happen overnight.
Right.
It don't happen overnight. So you got to study, and the more you study, the stronger you get. You know, and over time, you'll be able to overcome all of your, you know, low desires and your shortcomings. And you look back. Now I look back at the way I used to live, and it's like, man, I can't believe that I'd like to do some of those things, or that I did some of those things. You know, you'd be so far removed. It's a process. I don't want to scare anyone. You know, brothers see us in the suit and tie, and, you know, and think that, you know, I don't know what they think. We fell from heaven, or that we were just always these goody two-shoe type of people. You know, nah. A lot of the brothers, you know, in the nation, man, have come up the rough side of the road, bro. And through knowledge and studying and discipline, have been able to transform our lives to the point where we so far removed that you wouldn't think that we can relate. You know what I mean? So, but we go back to the same hood that we came from. You see, because we can relate, and those that know us know, and it's you know, it's inspirational. And what we want to say to our people is, if I can change, then you can change.
That's a good message. Yeah, speaking of going back to the communities that you come from, the hood, you guys do that now.
Yes.
You have a program, 10,000 Fearless.
Yes, sir.
You want to speak about that a little bit?
Absolutely. So we have the 10,000 Fearless Peacemakers. In 2015, the what was that, the 10th anniversary of the Million Man March, 95, 2000. No, that was with the 15th anniversary of the Million Man March. We went back to DC and to celebrate, the historic Million Man March, and the theme was justice or else. And part of that, the minister made a call. Now this was at the height of, police killing our people, right? We had just they've been killing our people,
right?
But the advent of cell phones and social media,
right, it's making
really
it known now.
From 2015 to 13 to 15, like it really, people started seeing, from Trayvon Martin, to Mike Brown, to Freddie Gray, to Sandra Bland, all of our people who were murdered by police and were getting off with it. You understand? And also white vigilantes and racists that were killing us and getting away with it. It started this whole movement, protest, and our people was really outraged. And so at the 15th anniversary of the Million Man March, we went back. Pardon me, so I got to get this right.
Okay.
I believe it was the 20th anniversary of the Million Man March. We went back, and the minister called for 10,000 fearless peacemakers, and he said that he's looking for those that'll be fearless and will be willing to stand between the gangs and the guns and make our community a safe and decent place to live. And so, whatever the minister say, as soon as he say it, I'm gonna be found trying to bring into reality, to hear and obey what he said. That was an order, that was a directive. But he was calling now the 10,000 fearless. Now, the FOI, which is the fruit of Islam, which is the name given to the military training of the men that belong to Islam in North America, meaning the registered members of the Nation of Islam, the men, the fruit of Islam. We are already fearless. Islam makes you fearless, right? And we are already, ready to do that work. So the minister's call for 10,000 fearless, that wasn't a call exclusively to the FOI. We already there. That was a call, him calling the community, the black men in the community, to stand up. But then he said that they have to be trained to go out into the community and to make our community a safe and decent place to live, to stop crooked cops, racist white vigilantes from killing our people, but also to stop us from killing us. And so we started to work immediately. You know what I'm saying? 10-10-15, after 10-10-15, we started to work when we came back to train and to establish the 10,000 fearless peacemakers. After a while, we got it emotional, but like a lot of things, it loses its momentum.
Right.
So it kind of died out. Because again, this wasn't a call that was just for the FOI or just for the Muslims.
Right.
Right? This was a call
for black men
that was supposed to, the 10,000 fearless was a banner and is a banner that we could all come under. Whether you're a Christian, whether you're a Muslim, whether you have no religion, right? We all can come under this banner because this is non-denominational.
Right.
And the one thing that we have in common is that we're in the community that is being ravaged by violence and also, being harassed by corrupt cops and so forth and so on, right? So the one thing that this 10,000 fearless was a banner for everyone. So what happened is when we first launched it, and I reached out to certain preachers and let's do this. Let's come together. I'm not trying to make you a FOI. Right. I'm not trying to make you join the Nation of Islam. Right. But let's come together so that we can make our community a safe and decent place to live. So we started with some momentum. But again, a lot of times, man, our people lack that stick-to-itiveness. Right. And so it kind of died out, and then eventually you just got the fruit.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And that's
So-
where you are today, mainly just the fruit coming out.
Yeah. So
And we got to do something about that, yo.
yeah. So that happened. You know, in 2000. You know, I would say 2016. You know, but then a few years later, with the murder of Eleanor Maloney on Mattapan Street in Mattapan. You know, this was a case where a grandmother was sitting on her porch and became the victim of gang violence, or I shouldn't say gang violence, but of gun violence.
Right, gun violence.
And that hit us. You know, that hit us, man. You know, when a grandmother who was retired
Right.
can't sit on her porch with her grandchildren without being affected by gun violence, you know, that's a problem. So when that happened, you know, we made the call again for the black men in the community to stand up, and we reignited the 10,000 fearless peacemakers. And the brothers, you know, responded. The community responded. And you know, but again, we always respond on the heels of a tragedy. We're outraged, we're angry, we want to do something. And the 10,000 fearless that called to the men, you know, gave brothers something to do. But as we go from just being reactionary, which a lot of times we just reactionary.
Right.
That's why we don't protest. A lot of times, you know, a cop or something happens and we want to go out and protest. Our people want to go out and protest. That's just an emotional outburst that doesn't have, you know, the longevity, the structure, the planning. It doesn't create no programmatic, real, tangible change. We angry and we just want to vent. And so, same thing. So after the tragedy, the men stood up. We angry, we here. But now when we start instituting, we got to go through training. Because, you know, we have to be trained to go into our community. What you gonna do when you go in? You got to know how to handle our people. So we offer certain units of training. They have to learn first, love thyself. Because what our people are suffering in our community is a lack of love of self. It's self-hatred. This is what will make you want to kill your brother. And this thing that we have to address, bro, that is permeating our community now, is this self-destructive culture where our young people and even some of our older brothers have accepted and bought on to this idea, right? That being a killer of your own people is honorable.
Right.
Right? And you know, I was speaking to some brothers in the prison, and I was telling them how, you know, coming into the Nation of Islam, how we had to be taught how to be men, because many of us were never taught how to be men.
Right.
And I remember as a young man, for me coming up, the elders around me that reared me said, in order to be a man, you have to try every drug at least one time. And you know how harmful that kind of advice is? Because there's certain drugs that all you need to do is take one time, and you can't come back from. In order to be a man, you have to spend at least one night in jail. In order to be a man, you got to do this and everything that we was taught coming up as to what a man is. Man, that wasn't what a man is at all. We was taught wrong.
Right.
And that's what I think about as a young man. So I'm a young man listening to this. So I'm saying, man, I gotta try every drug. I gotta go to jail. I was telling brothers in prison this story, and a young man stood up, you know, had to be in his early to mid 20s, and he said, Brother Randy, he said, man, you're right. He said, but in my neighborhood, I was told that you're not a man until you kill somebody. And then he said, and in my neighborhood, I hardly know one person that only got one body. He said, man, they done turned us into serial killers. I'm quoting his words. This is this brother having an epiphany, listening to the message I was given to him by the grace of God. Right? But he's telling me his reality.
Mm-hmm.
He said they done turned us into serial killers, because now it's not even enough to be a killer, because brothers is like,
you have to validate your authenticity, not only if you're a killer, but how many bodies you got. So it's like, man, you ain't got, I got more bodies than you. My crew got, so the illest crew is the one that got the biggest body, the largest body count.
Right.
Which is sickening.
Right.
And it's crazy that
it's false.
And it's false.
And it's false.
And it's false.
That don't make you a man.
That don't make you a man at all. And it's sad that young people are being taught this, right? Because it's so foul for the big homies, the older brothers, the OGs to perpetuate this. Mm-hmm. Because here's the thing, there's no statute of limitation on murder.
Right.
So when you jumping off the porch with a body, you watching your back for the rest of your life.
The rest of your life.
So this kind of mentality, this culture, this self-destructive culture that we have accepted as a way of life, to being killers, that's real. And so now, if we want to be peacemakers, right? That mind where you would want to kill someone just for a rep is rooted in self-hatred. It's self-hatred. So you don't value your brother because you don't really value yourself. So since you don't think nothing of yourself, it's nothing to kill this man. He's nothing to me. But in reality, that's how you're feeling about yourself.
That's a fact.
So we have to train our people to love themselves, right? And we have to love our people. We have to love our people that's doing this work. If you want to be a peacemaker, you have to love your people more than they hate themselves. And that's the spirit of love when we go into the community. We're not going into our community trying to act like the police on some self-righteous, clean up, or like, like we used to see back in the day, the guardian angels. Like, nah, that's not the energy. We going into our community as the community, as their brother, to show them love and to be an example and to help, not to judge, not to condemn. We're not going there to condemn. Brother, pull your pants up. Brother, put that bottle down. But why you smoking? We don't have to do all that. All we got to do is be there and be present for peace. Show them love. And that genuine love and concern, if you go in the community and you give our brothers love, man, you're going to get love. And if they know that you're genuine and you love them, see, what we want to do is build a rapport. So that now, brother, we offer conflict mediation. So now, brother, if you're in a beef with another crew, you can reach out to us before it escalates to that point that we can't return from.
Hold on, brother. That's something that's very important. You need to look at the camera and let the brothers know what you just said. To all the active gang members that's out there that's going to watch this, that if because a lot of them don't want to know, they don't want to do what they're doing,
right?
But they don't know how to navigate to make it a peace call without them feeling like they're suckers or they're not a man, as they say, right?
Right.
But let them know that they can reach out, again, how you just said, for you guys to come in and mediate a peaceful resolution.
Yeah, absolutely. See, we're never taught conflict mediation, and as a matter of fact, we're taught the opposite when we're in our little circles, right? You have those that are putting a battery in your back. We got to be, F them. We got to ride on them. Yo, they want you to ride. You know what I mean? And a lot of times we egging each other on to retaliate and escalate a situation. Sometimes that don't need to be escalated. But let me tell you, every conflict doesn't have to end with someone being shot, stabbed, and murdered, man. It just doesn't. That's rooted from self-hatred. So we as the peacemakers, we are offering ourselves to you. That, if you're in a conflict, someone you feel did you wrong or whatnot, you can reach out to us. We are neutral third party, right? That can mediate the conflict and help resolve it before it escalates to the next level. Now, a lot of gangs now call themselves nation. The Blood Nation, the Crip Nation, the this nation, the that nation, right? Well, conflict is natural to nations. When you look at America, she's been in conflict with every country on the planet. But that's why the United Nations is established. there's a body where they can deliberate and try to resolve conflicts peacefully.